Hey guys, Tarke here, and today we're going to do a Filterblade guide showing you how to make your own loot filters, how I make my SSF loot filters, and I'm going to use my Bleed Deadeye as an example. Rather than just giving you my filter, which is all of you have been asking for, I would much rather show you how I set up my filter, and hopefully you can do it yourself, which means that, one, you have the knowledge, but also means you can tweak it to your needs, which is the important thing with filters. Even if you don't play SSF, this should still be helpful info, so let's just dive straight into it. So when you first go onto Filterblade, this is the overview page, and this is where you decide what it is you want to do. If you're playing in a trade league, you can select one of these two presets, and then every 4 hours, the filter will automatically adjust based on the economy. Great, I play SSF. I don't want any of that rubbish. Even if I did play in a trade league, I wouldn't want that. I would rather have it hand set myself. And yeah, so you click Nemesis Stable if you want that hand set thing. Then you get to pick between some themes. These are just give it different colors, and you can see them previewed down here. So you just click on all the different ones till you find one you like. I like Abyss, that's what I go for. And then you have these like starting parameters. Basically, this end, it kind of shows pretty much everything. At this end, it shows basically nothing. When I'm making my own filters, I like to start with regular or semi-strict. That has a lot of the fluff kind of filtered out, and then it just leaves it open to me. So once I've picked an everything stable, a color that I like, and put it on one of these low starting things, we then get into the customize tab. Now, it's important that when you're going through this to avoid getting overwhelmed, thinking, what is your build? What are your goals? For example, this one we're doing the bleed bow setup. So we're going to be looking specifically for bows, quivers, evasion bases, armor evasion bases. That's our main focus. If I knew that I was going to be playing a spellcaster next, maybe I'd want to factor in some spellcaster gear. I'm going to do everything purely from the SSF perspective of making my build function. So, starting out with the vendor recipe, very simple. You just get to click through each individual thing and set things as you need it. You can set certain parameters, so stuff only shows at certain item levels, area levels rather. But early on, I don't want to pick up any chromatic items, so that's all disabled. Likewise with GCPs. In SSF, yeah, I quite like getting GCPs. I set 10 as the minimum threshold, so I won't see any quality gems underneath 10 quality. Kind of go all the way through here, doing the same thing. Highlight jewelers, obviously. Glass blowers, don't really need to be seeing them. I want to be collecting Loreweave rings, so I want to be showing these with quite a large size, and you can affect their sizing here. You can change sounds, you can change all sorts of shenanigans, but I'm happy with these sounds by default. I'm not going to be doing chisel recipe, turn that stuff off. Chancing bases. Think about your build. Are there things you need to be chancing? For my build, I want to be getting a Roslatha's Coil, which is a studded belt base, and Serpent Scale Gauntlets, which is the base for Hemophilia. If you're like, okay, but Tarke, I don't know all the uniques in the game. How do I even know like what uniques I want? How do I know what bases I want? If you're really unsure, you could go on PB Ninja, which is a great website. Go to PB Ninja builds, and you could just search for your build. So you could be like, okay, I'm playing the Puncture build, look at other Puncture characters, see what items they're using. If you see an item you think, oh, that looks really cool, you can then just put it in this way. Whenever in doubt, PB Ninja referencing other stuff is great. Currency. This depends purely on where you're at. In a trade environment, you want to be, showing all the good stuff, hiding a lot of the early base fodder stuff. I show a lot of the base fodder stuff. There's a great new addition where you can show stacks. So that was one of the big issues I always used to have in SSF, is I needed stuff like transmutes, blacksmith whetstones, arm scraps, but picking them up individually was a real pain. Now I can do is I can go in, I can have these all shown, and I can select the stack size. So I've got it set to a minimum of 4. So if 4 portal scrolls or more drop, I'll pick them up, because I would pick up 4 portal scrolls in one click. Anything under that is arguable. And yeah, you can just tweak all of this based on your needs. If, for example, you suddenly had a million orb of transmute, you're like, I never need any more, take them off the filter. And it's really that simple as just clicking the button to remove something, and if you want to put it back in, got a nice little drop down, you can type, all lovely. These are all the same things, working out where you're at, setting if you want to show your pawns and your wisdoms, good. There are special individual rules for essences, delves, all this good stuff. General rule of thumb is all this stuff is pretty much worth picking up. If you don't know what you're doing and you've selected one of the lower bases, this will all show by default, which is kind of what you want. If you know that you need a specific essence, let's say that you really needed essences of envy, then maybe you would add them into this top base here. So they get highlighted with all the other good stuff. But we don't need to do that, so we can just click that button and it goes away. For uniques, if you don't know what you're doing by default, just have everything on here. You really need to know what you're doing when you start removing unique bases, as it says here at the top. Loot filters can't distinguish between different uniques of the same base type. So if you're like, oh, I don't want to be picking up all these like worms, molts, let's take leather belts off there. It's like, oh, hang on, you might have just removed a potential headhunter. Be very careful and mess around with the unique item tab. Very, very careful with that. Divination cards, this one can be a real headache to get through. This is the main thing where you could spend a lot of time going through each individual one. One thing which is quite neat about this is if you hover over something, it shows you what the results are. So if you have the patience and you have the time, you can very easily sit through here and manually just be like, do I want that? Yes, no, boom, remove it. Yes, no, boom, remove it. I kind of just like collecting div cards in SSF. I like watching the tab fill up, so I don't mind picking up fodder div cards. But yeah, this is something that I would highly recommend actually going through, especially when it comes to highlighting. There might be some div cards you really value that the filter doesn't by default, and you want to be making sure that those correct div cards are in the appropriate high tiers so you're not missing them. Filterblade is always really good. Nemesis does a good job whenever the new League content out. It's very obviously highlighted. I did actually go in for the Arch Nemesis stuff and just increase the size of it just so I'd never missed it. Likewise with the Atlas Scouting reports. This might seem like quite overwhelming, but it's really, the only things you really need to really be messing around with is the endgame rares and crafting bases, but it is good to establish a basis early on, especially when it comes to stuff like chancing bases if there are specifics for your build. The map stuff you can generally leave as is. The main reason you might want to do certain things is you can highlight and hide specific maps. So if you wanted to farm a particular map for div cards, maybe you'd want that particular map to have a special sound when it drops. And if there was a certain map you hated, say cells, maybe you never want to pick up any cells, and you're like, I can't be bothered to sell it for recipes or currency to other players, just get rid of that stuff. This is where like it actually kind of matters and you need to know what your build is. So for the crafting bases, this can seem a little unintuitive at first, but basically if I wanted to highlight energy shield bases, I go to the energy shield one. I'm selecting tier 1. Now if I click on something, it's put in tier 1. So whatever I click on is now classified as tier 1. And if I've got tier 1 stuff is showing, then it will show everything I have listed in tier 1. If I don't want to show it, select the tier 4 button, boom, it's all gone. And it's that simple. You can label everything accordingly. Go down through each little one. I have actually got the top ES evasion bases eye level 86 highlighted because there's something I would want to craft on. Likewise, I have all the evasion bases, the top armor ES gloves and boots, and also it should be the top evasion armor as well. Awesome. Same deal for quivers, and same deal. Actually, I want feathered on that. And same deal for bows. I went through and selected the best bows and the best quivers. And you're like, how do I know what the best bows are? How do I know what the best quivers are? Very simple. Google Path of Exile list of bows. Google Path of Exile list of quivers. If you're playing a hammer build, do a Path of Exile list of two-handed maces. So once you've got your list up, search what it is you need for your build. For my build, I need high physical damage. I need high crit chance. So I'm looking at damage rolls, and we can see that Harvey bow has 92 top end with up to 7.5 crit. Very good. The highest pure fizz is the Citadel with 100, but it has 6% base crit. The Harvey bow is the best one for my particular build because I'm playing SF and I can't trade other people. I currently have the Harvey bow, the Citadel bow, the Assassin's bow, the Decimation bow, and the Spine bow on my filter. And I basically just went through picking the bows with the best fizz, with the best crit, and the best attack speed. And yeah, really that simple. Similar deal with the quivers. I went through all different quivers, looked at the ones I wanted, and thought, which ones would actually function well in my build. What I ended up picking was, as you can see here, the Ornate Quiver, Spike Point, which gives crit chance because my build scales with crit, Feathered, which is the new projectile speed one, Heavy, which is physical damage, Vile, I actually don't need to be showing that anymore, I can turn that off, that's chaos conversion, Broadhead is attack speed, and Blunt is physical damage now. This is outdated if you look here. Yeah, phys damage. They changed all that recently. Okay, so once you've selected all of that, you've selected what you want as tier 1 and tier 2. You just have tier 1 showing, disabling, whatever. Boom. Now you can set additional specific rules for certain league items or particular mods if you're looking for, say like incursion mods, something like that. Flasks, highlight the flasks that are good for your build if you want to pick up good high level flasks. For me, that is quicksilvers, jades, granites, sulfurs, irons. Probably actually shove quartz on there as well. Same deal with the life and mana flask. Same deal with low. This is high level for the same low level ones. Jewels. Now, different jewels have different weighting. So, for example, bow mods are more likely to appear on Viridians. Physical based mods are more likely to appear on Crimsons. So I show both Crimson and Viridian magic jewels, but I don't bother showing Cobalt ones. They tend to be quite spell focused. I do still show them for the rare because there's a chance of me just getting like life, crit multi-resist, which will be good, but you can tweak that as based. And if you want sounds to play, you can set sounds. If you don't want sounds to play, then you know, you can kind of do whatever. Same deal with all the abyssal stuff. Endgame rares, haha, the fun stuff. So this is where you go and you see what actual rare items are dropping that you want to be picking up. In SSF, I like to pick up pretty much all rings and amulets because you never know, doesn't really matter too much what the base is, and you can sell them for alteration shards, and alterations are excellent. So I go pretty lenient on here. I show everything, even stuff like coral amulets. But if you don't want to mess around with that stuff, you could very easily take pretty much everything out of this tier 3 and disable it. And yeah, if you really value, for example, amethyst rings, you want that chaos res, maybe you actually want to move the amethyst rings up a tier, and you can drag up and down through the tiers very easily if you don't want to be searching for stuff all the time. And stuff like that is really just a case of just learning through play. Same deal with the belts. I actually don't mind picking up all the different belts because I can sell them for alterations. They use up very little inventory space. But if I wanted to, I could very easily drop the chain cloth and studded rares because I'm very unlikely to ever use them. But as is, they don't use so much space. I just pick them up for the alterations. If I was in the super end game and I had a good foundation of like alteration stuff, then that's when I'd start like cutting off a lot of that fodder stuff. Weapons and armor. So the previous one we set up was for high eye level crafting bases. I had that to show eye level 86 crafting bases of those particular mods. This is just for actual rares that drop. So same deal, go through and highlight what you want in the different tiers. I'm playing a build which scales off evasion and armor, but mostly evasion. So I highlight all the best evasion bases. I currently show tier 1 to tier 2 body armors because they are 6 socket items, use up a lot of inventory space. And then tier 1 to tier 3 boots, gloves, helmets because I want good boots, gloves, helmets, and I currently don't have an amazing helm. If, for example, I had an absolutely amazing helmet, then I would only show the top base on it. I wouldn't bother showing these weaker bases. It's also worth noting with the new influence types, the fact you want to add them to uninfluenced items, it's worth being a little bit more lenient here. Because you're just looking for any good item to be throwing influence on there. Likewise for the evasion armor. Here we're being a little bit more lenient, only showing the top 2, or stricter, sorry, only showing the top 2 tiers rather than the top 3 tiers. Because once you start going down here on these hybrid pieces, then the values get pretty low. I don't show anything other than fugitive boots because they give chaos res. And we don't show any of the pure armor stuff because I'm not playing a build that needs armor currently. If I was playing in a trade league, I'd just be showing the most valuable bases. But since I'm in SSF, I can't trade with other people. And there is an argument for like having your filter which works for your build and like any future builds you plan to play. The problem is, and this is an issue that a lot of people have with their filters, is if you go too wide, you're picking up too much junk. I would rather do a much more specialist, much more focused filter for one specific build, and then that allows me to go slightly wider on my bases. So like you can see, I had so many different bow bases on my filter, I had so many different quiver bases, being able to show tier 1 to tier 3 evasion. I would rather show tier 1 to tier 3 evasion boots than show the tier 1 evasion, the tier 1 armor, and the tier 1 ES, because I don't have any plans to play armor or ES currently. So I would rather focus all my attention on the build I'm currently playing, rather than a build I might possibly be playing in the future. And I think that's why I tend to have a lot more success when it comes to picking up and finding my own upgrades in SSF than even compared to people playing in trade leagues or whatever, because I set up my filter to my build strength rather than to... I'd rather have a specialized filter just for my build than something which is for all the builds, because I'm not playing all of the builds. And also having... If you have no plans to play an ES build, this falls on the different... Depends on who you are as a player, right? But like, let's say you have no plans of playing ES builds. All you're doing by picking up ES bases is potentially just baiting yourself into playing a different character, which if you wanted to play a different character is good. But if you don't have that goal, then you're just setting yourself backwards. You're more likely to lose focus and lose attention from your current character and become less invested. And again, you're going to be getting more upgrades if you're going wider on the bases that actually matter to your build. Same thing all the way through to bows, quivers, etc. And you can see it's all set up correctly based on the bases we showed you earlier. And yeah, keep going down, keep sorting through everything. Influence rares just show everything by default. And then this is for leveling stuff. The leveling stuff you can set how you want. Something which can be nice for this is like highlighting specific colors and links. So if you knew that you needed certain 4 links, you could show certain 4 links. If you needed certain 3 links, like, oh, I really need a 4-link 2-handed sword, you could only show those or not show those based on what's what. You can go for specific colors and all sorts of shenanigans. Miscellaneous, this is stuff like skill gems, like quest items, heist follower equipment. And once you've done all this, if you're like, okay, but how do I know if it works? You press the simulate button. And this is great. So here you can be like, okay, I want to see what it looks like while leveling. So let's pick a level 45 zone, generate loot. All right, we're picking up loads of random stuff. Great, love to see it. What does it look like when I'm in early maps? Let's say high level 69. Okay, so you can see we're not seeing individual portal scrolls. We're seeing some random div cards. Okay, we're seeing some quivers. If you ever want to double check something, you can just control click and it will instantly take you to where it is in the customized tab, so you can mess around with it in here. And again, there's a search window which is hidden by my cam. Go into simulate. Let's look at more generate valuable loot. Okay, let's see. We're getting some jeweler's orbs. See what they look like in here. Okay. Okay, yeah, I'm happy with how the basic items and currency. But actually, let's look at the flasks, because I wasn't too sure about the flask stuff. Let's see what high level flasks we're seeing in here. Okay, eternal life flask. Only picking. Yeah, I pick up an high level 86. Don't want to pick up Sacred Mana Flask, so I don't know about that. It's control click. Why did that pop up? Oh, because we have Glassblower recipe on, so that we could sell a 20 quality to the vendor for a Glassblower. Do I care about that? You know, I don't care about that. Let's turn that off. Okay, let's generate. Okay. Divine Life Flask, so I want the high level one? Yeah, okay, sure, we can turn that off. What about for div cards? Let's mess around with the div card stuff. Don't want to be showing these low tier ones, high tier ones, and yeah, it's really that simple. You can just go through, map it out to where you are progressing wise, and just kind of look at it from that point of view. That's showing up as a white item because again, it's a chance based. If I want to turn it off, I could disable it. If I wanted to change the colors or anything like that, I can, all in here. I can change backgrounds. I can just change all of this good stuff. And that's really that. You can then get into really nitty gritty stuff with the style, altering different text colors, border colors, all that other stuff. Advanced, you don't really need to worry about. I would kind of just ignore this one. This is much more advanced. I've never really felt the need to have to use this. So I just haven't. Save and load. You've got a few different ways of saving with it. You can save it locally to your computer. You can save it with Path of Exile if you log in to Filterblade. Perfectly safe to log into Filterblade. So we'll save it here. Let's delete this old one. We don't need this old filter. And we'll call it 317 bleed bow. And this is version 0.3 for me. Apply. Boom, that's now there. You can see all the changes I've made on it. You can see my most recent one was also Sunday, funny enough, from here. And then I can download it. You can press download. It shows it goes into your documents or whatever. Boom. Show in folder. Copy. Path of exile. Paste. It's really that simple. Then you log in. Once you've done all that, go into the options, select the filter in the options menu, and you are cracking. And you can see all the ones you've got in here. So select the new one, version 0.3, save, and we're good to go. But yes, I'm Tarke. Hopefully that was helpful for some of you people. Have a good day. Bye-bye.